The first wall of my home collapsed at exactly 9:17 that morning. I remember the time because I was standing 20 feet away, screaming at a demolition crew that genuinely believed they were following a legal county order. And while my life's work disappeared under clouds of dust, one woman stood at the end of my driveway, smiling. She adjusted her designer sunglasses, folded her arms, and quietly said, "I told everyone this house wouldn't be here by lunchtime." 45 minutes later, that same woman was standing in handcuffs while two sheriff's deputies read her rights in front of the entire neighborhood. She thought nobody could stop her. She was wrong. My name is Gideon Hale. I'm 66 years old, a retired bridge engineer, and until that Tuesday morning, I'd spent 14 peaceful years living on 6 acres just outside the town of Ashcroft, Colorado. People assume retirement is exciting. It isn't. At least, not mine. I enjoyed quiet mornings, black coffee on my porch, repairing old woodworking tools in my detached shop, and watching deer wander across the creek behind my property. It was exactly the life my late wife and I had planned. After she passed away 5 years earlier, that house became more than just a place to live. It held every memory we had built together. Every board in my workshop had been cut by my own hands. Every tree had been planted by us. That land wasn't valuable because of money. It was valuable because it was home. Unfortunately, someone else decided my home didn't belong there. Her name was Lenora Whitlock. She had been elected president of the neighboring HOA only 8 months earlier. From the day she took office, she acted less like a volunteer and more like someone who believed she owned the entire valley. She drove through the neighborhood in a white luxury SUV almost every afternoon, looking for violations. Trash cans left out too long. Holiday decorations still hanging. Grass half an inch too tall. She issued warning letters over flower pots. She threatened fines over mailbox paint. People complained, but they paid, because fighting the HOA usually cost more than giving in. The only person she couldn't control was me, because my property wasn't inside her HOA. The subdivision ended nearly 400 feet before my driveway. Every survey, every county record, every property map proved it. Legally, she had absolutely no authority over my land. That fact seemed to bother her more than anything else. At first, she tried being polite. She visited my house carrying HOA brochures and smiled as though she were doing me a favor. "You should really consider joining the community," she said. I smiled back. I already have a community. She didn't appreciate that answer. A week later, I received a letter claiming my workshop lowered surrounding property values. I ignored it. Then came another letter saying my fence violated HOA standards. Again, I ignored it. Then another, and another. Eventually, the letters stopped sounding like invitations and started sounding like threats. One afternoon, she pulled into my driveway without permission. "I don't think you understand," she said. "This community has standards." I looked around my property. Freshly cut grass, a freshly painted porch, flower beds my wife had planted years earlier. "I think my property looks just fine." Her smile disappeared. "You'll regret making this difficult." I simply walked back inside. If someone had told me that conversation would eventually end with bulldozers tearing into my home, I would have laughed. For several months, everything became strangely quiet. Too quiet. No letters. No complaints. No surprise visits. It almost felt as though Lenora had finally accepted reality. Looking back, that silence should have worried me. Tuesday morning started like every other morning. Coffee. Local news playing softly in the kitchen. Then the sound of heavy diesel engines echoed through the valley. At first I assumed construction had started somewhere inside the subdivision. But the engines kept getting louder. Closer. I stepped onto my porch. 3 large demolition trucks turned onto my private driveway. Behind them came an excavator, a skid steer, 2 county-looking pickup trucks, and nearly a dozen workers wearing reflective safety vests. For a second, I honestly thought they had the wrong address. Then I saw Lenora. She climbed out of her white SUV wearing a bright pink pantsuit that looked far too expensive for a Tuesday morning. She wasn't surprised to see me. In fact, she looked delighted. She slowly walked toward my porch carrying a thick blue folder. "Good morning, Mr. Hale. What is all this?" She held up the folder. "County demolition authorization." I frowned. "What demolition authorization?" She opened the folder just enough for me to see an official-looking county seal. "Your structures have been declared unsafe." I almost laughed. Declared by who? The county. No, they haven't. She tilted her head. I guess you'll find out. Before I could respond, the demolition supervisor approached. He looked uncomfortable. My name's Travis Boone. He offered me a handshake. I'm sorry, sir, but we've been instructed to clear every structure on this parcel today. I didn't shake his hand. Instead, I asked one question. Can I see the order? He hesitated, then handed me the paperwork. The documents looked convincing. Official stamps, permit numbers, inspection reports, signatures. At first glance, everything appeared legitimate. Then I noticed something that instantly made my stomach tighten. The parcel identification number. It wasn't mine. Not even close. I'd spent 38 years reviewing engineering plans and county maps. Property numbers become second nature after that long. The permit belonged to an entirely different parcel. I looked back at Travis. This isn't my property. He blinked. What? This permit doesn't belong here. Before Travis could answer, Lenora stepped between us. He's trying to delay the process. I pointed directly at the permit. Read the parcel number. Travis looked again. His confident expression disappeared. He quietly compared it against the address written on his work order. Something wasn't matching. Lenora immediately interrupted. The county survey team already verified everything yesterday. Travis looked uncertain. So we're okay to continue. Lenora answered before anyone else could. Absolutely. She spoke with such confidence that several workers immediately climbed back into their machines. I pulled out my phone. I'm calling the county. Lenora smiled. You'll be wasting your time. As the call began connecting, the excavator started moving. Its massive steel bucket rose into the air and aimed directly at the workshop my wife and I had built together with our own hands. I shouted for them to stop. The operator hesitated, looked toward Lenora, then looked back at the paperwork in his hands. For one long second, nobody moved. Then Lenora gave one small nod. The operator pulled the control lever. The bucket crashed through the workshop wall with a deafening roar. Wood exploded into the air. Windows shattered. Dust swallowed the entire building. And standing at the edge of my driveway, Lenora Whitlock smiled. For a few seconds, nobody said a word. The sound of splintering wood echoed across my property as another section of my workshop collapsed. Inside that building were 14 years of memories. My late wife's gardening journals. The rocking chair I built for our first anniversary. Boxes of family photographs. Tools that had belonged to my father. Gone in seconds. I ran toward the excavator, waving both arms. Stop. That permit isn't for my property. The operator immediately took his hands off the controls. He looked shaken. I don't know who's right. You don't have to guess, I shouted. Read the parcel number. Before he could climb down, Lenora stormed over. Keep working. The county already approved everything. Her voice was so confident that 2 workers started preparing the next structure. Then my phone call connected. County Building and Safety, a woman answered. My name is Gideon Hale. A demolition crew is tearing down my property using Permit 24, DM 1187. I need someone to verify it immediately. I heard typing, then silence. The woman came back on the line. Sir, can you repeat your address? I did. Another pause. Then her tone completely changed. Mr. Hale, that permit does not belong to your address. My heart sank. What? It belongs to an abandoned commercial warehouse nearly 5 miles away. I looked at the broken remains of my workshop. They've already started demolishing my property. Do not let them continue. Sheriff's deputies and county investigators are on their way now. I ended the call. Lenora noticed the expression on my face. She smiled. No one is coming to save you. I looked directly at her. You've just made the biggest mistake of your life. She laughed. That's exactly what people say before they lose. Less than 3 minutes later, 2 sheriff's SUVs turned onto my driveway with their emergency lights flashing. Behind them came 2 county vehicles. The entire demolition site froze. Deputy Alden Reese stepped out first. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't running. He simply walked toward the demolition supervisor with the calm confidence of someone who already suspected what he'd find. Who authorized this demolition? The supervisor, Travis Boone, handed him the blue folder. County Compliance Director Maris Gentry joined him. She opened the folder. Her eyes narrowed. She flipped through the pages once. Then again. Finally, she looked up. Where did you get these documents? Lenora answered immediately. From the county. Maris slowly shook her head. No, you didn't. The smile disappeared from Lenora's face. Maris held up the permit. This county seal is copied. She pointed to the signature. This inspector retired 11 months ago. Another page. This formatting hasn't been used in over 2 years. Another page. The parcel number doesn't even belong to this property. The workers stared at each other. Travis looked physically sick. I swear we thought these papers were real. Deputy Reese nodded. I believe you. Then he turned toward Lenora. Ma'am, I need you to tell me exactly where these documents came from. She folded her arms. My HOA attorney handled everything. Name? She hesitated. I don't remember. The deputy didn't even react. Instead, he asked another question. Did anyone from the county inspect this property? Yes. Who? Again. Silence. Because there had never been an inspection. Just then, another pickup truck arrived. A middle-aged man stepped out carrying a survey case. My name is Nolan Avery, he said. Licensed surveyor. Maris handed him the map from Lenora's folder. He looked at it for less than 5 seconds. This isn't my work. You've seen it before? No. How do you know it's fake? He pointed to the signature. Because that's supposed to be mine. He opened his own case and laid the real certified survey across the hood of the county truck. The difference was impossible to ignore. Different parcel, different boundary lines, different legal description. Lenora's entire case collapsed in front of everyone. A small crowd of homeowners had gathered near the entrance by then. Most were recording with their phones. One elderly woman quietly spoke up. I knew something wasn't right. Another neighbor added. Lenora told us last week this house would be gone before the weekend. Deputy Reese heard every word. Maris continued searching through the blue folder. Then something unexpected slipped out. A single sheet of paper. Across the top, in bold letters. Operation Clean Entrance. Everyone went silent. Below the title were handwritten notes. Pressure owner. Use county paperwork. Remove structures before legal challenge. And beneath those notes, my address. Deputy Reese slowly looked up. Ms. Whitlock. She took one step backward. I can explain. Please do. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. So you admit you planned it? No. She stopped talking. Because she realized every answer only made things worse. Deputy Reese removed a pair of handcuffs from his duty belt. Lenora Whitlock. He spoke calmly. Turn around and place your hands behind your back. Her face turned pale. You can't arrest me. I can't. This is HOA business. No, ma'am. He stepped closer. This stopped being HOA business the moment forged government documents were used to destroy private property. The entire neighborhood watched in complete silence. The same woman who had spent months acting like she controlled everyone now stood speechless. The first handcuff clicked shut, then the second. Exactly 45 minutes after the first wall of my workshop had fallen, Lenora Whitlock was standing in handcuffs. She looked around, expecting someone to defend her. No one did. As deputies escorted her toward the patrol vehicle, one of the demolition workers quietly walked over to me. I'm sorry, Mr. Hale. He removed his hard hat. We never would have touched your property if we'd known. I shook his hand. I know. Months later, investigators uncovered emails, forged permits, fake survey documents, and evidence that Lenora had manipulated contractors by pretending to act on behalf of the county. She resigned as HOA president, was criminally charged, and faced multiple civil lawsuits. The contractor's insurance and court-ordered restitution paid for rebuilding my workshop and repairing the damage to my property. Nearly a year later, I stood on my rebuilt porch as the American flag moved gently in the morning breeze. The workshop had been rebuilt. The flower beds were blooming again. Peace had returned. People often ask me if I hate Lenora for what she did. I don't, because anger fades. But consequences have a way of lasting forever. And sometimes, all it takes is 45 minutes for someone who believed they were above the law to learn that the law always arrives.